Welcome to the Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast, your number one home for all things Bison basketball. My name is Chip Washington, the self-appointed Bison basketball fanatic.
Hey, what's up, Bison Nation? It's your boy, Brian B. Smooth Poston, still the lover of all things Howard, lover of all things basketball, always repping the Mecca, one bucket at a time. One bucket at a time. And we look forward to tapping in with one of our favorite coaches on staff today. So this is a good one. You got to tune in, but we want to make sure you know it's always a good time to hit the subscribe button and follow us, because we're trying to make sure you can hear all the stories about Howard and what we're doing to make it the number one program in your hearts. Chip?
Indeed. And before we get to Coach, Bison Nation, you know we always remind you to donate to the Mecca Society. That is Howard's Name, Image, and Likeness Collective. It's an excellent way to support the student athletes. You can do that by going to themeccasociety.org. You can also donate to the athletics department at hubison.com and give at that same site through the Bison Express Booster Club. And as always, please continue to tell everyone about this podcast. Hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the like button. You can hear us just about anywhere. You can hear us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, and you can interact with us on Instagram at Bison Brothers Basketball. So please continue to tell everybody about the podcast, about the show, support this Dream Factory championship culture, and we're going to make it happen today. So, yes.
Man,
so,
you get me hype every time, man. I'm ready to run through a wall every time you do that intro, bro. It's always from the heart. It's always from the heart. Hey, man, you've been having a good off season so far? Been having a good off season?
So far, so good. I'm working on my jumper. You know, just in case the team needs one more player. I'm ready.
My understanding is they're looking for a little bit of size, and unless you're gonna grow, they may be able to redshirt you. I know you got about 3 more years of eligibility left after that knee injury.
I got 4.5. It's like when you don't have a jumper and you just always open. It's a reason why I got 4.5 years of eligibility, because I can't play.
I love it. They could have kept the grade point average up with you on the team. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Awesome. So what we got going on for today, man? What's up for Bison Nation today?
So Bison Nation, we got a treat for you today. You know, we've been interviewing some outside coaches and high school coaches to kind of give us their perspective on the program. Well, now we're coming inside the house. So we have one of our cool assistant coaches coming to the stage. So in June of 2021, Coach Ongley came to the program, came to the Bison family, came to HU after serving 2 seasons at Dartmouth. And before Dartmouth, Coach Ongley and Coach Blakeney were members of the 2018 and 2019 Columbia Lions staff under Coach Jim Ingalls. In his 1 year there, Coach Ongley coached the forwards and the centers. And he arrived at Columbia after a 4-year stint as an assistant at his alma mater, Colby College in Waterville, Maine. His duties there included recruiting coordinator, scheduling coordinator, team travel coordinator, player development for practices, film breakdown, scouting reports, and statistical analysis. So between his stints at Colby and Columbia, Coach Ongley served as the video coordinator at Boston University and coached at Daniel Hand High School in Madison, Connecticut. So we got the brains of the operation coming to the stage. So Bison Nation, we're going to give a good showtime welcome to Coach Steve Ongley. Welcome.
Hey.
Brian, thank you for having me so much.
Oh,
yeah.
We want you to come with it.
Like we're in the Burr. Let's go.
Sit always.
Exactly.
Always repping the Burr, baby. Yes, you got me in my feelings right now.
There you go.
Always got to bring that big Bird energy.
That's
You
right.
got to do it.
No place
You
like
gotta
home,
do it.
man. No place like home.
Coach Steve is in the building. Coach Steve, it's good to have you on the show, brother.
Thank you, fellas. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me, and I look forward to hanging out with you tonight.
Hey, we thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. We figure it's probably real busy in the off season, so we're honored that you gave us a little bit of your time.
Absolutely.
So, and we'll start this out. We'll give you a layup, real broad question. To warm you up.
Sure.
How did you get interested in coaching?
Great question. I was an okay player, right? I was a Division III player, and I really liked the game. And when I got done playing, I had taken some years off. I was finishing school and kicking it around, and I eventually moved home and started working close to my hometown. And my old AAU coach approached me about coaching a 13-year-old boys AAU team just for fun, really, just on the weekends and one night a week. The commitment didn't seem like too much. And I had really no intention of maybe pursuing coaching at that point. I really didn't know what I was thinking, and just said, sure. I was helping out. And after one summer, I was just like, man, this is so much fun. Like, this is so much fun, getting to be back on the sidelines. And I was never that talented. So I had to think the game, right? I couldn't run and jump that high. I couldn't do much. I wasn't allowed to shoot. I was a throwback. I was a 6'7" post that played below the rim. So I wasn't too sexy of a basketball player. So I had to really think the game. And I caught the bug, man. Then after that, it was like, okay, can I help out at my high school? Can I help out at summer camps? Where can I do it? And then I positioned myself to potentially be a teacher in high school, knowing that I could coach as well. And then once I started doing that, I realized I'm only teaching because I want to coach, not the other way around. No offense to teachers. They're heroes and they work really hard. That's not a knock on that profession whatsoever. But for me, it was an entryway into basketball, and I wanted to see if I could do it full time.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Man.
It sounds similar to my story. I couldn't play. Yeah. Had to think my way on the game. I would say, like, every time I played like pickup, people they admired my hustle. Not necessarily my game. But they were like, he'll work hard. So
yeah, spirit's got to count for something, man.
It does. It does. We had a very competitive intramural team because of Chip's special move. He had a special move that allowed us to always fake people out. They didn't think the engineers could play, and then all of a sudden he'd come out and do a move, and we were in the championship. It was crazy.
There you go. Manners, man. Any way you can.
No doubt. So now my next broad question, but I'm going to give you a little context. So the broad question is, what drew you to Howard? But the context that I kind of want to put around it, because I've always admired what I call visionaries, people that do things that don't seem like a great move at the time. So when I think about, you coming in 2021, we were just coming off COVID, the McCourt Maker experience. I think at the time, like, Howard was probably 4-29 before you got there. So on the surface, it would seem like Dartmouth had a much better foundation. And so kind of with that context, I kind of asked, what drew you to Howard for a coaching opportunity?
Totally fair. And I think a lot of people have that same question when I made the move. But I would say, to your point about visionaries, Chip, like, Kenny and I, like you mentioned earlier in the intro, had a chance to work together at Columbia. And I just saw how passionate he was about really anything he believed in. Whatever he thought was, he could bring it to life. And I think that's rare. It's a really rare quality. It's really rare to see it in action too, right? You don't often get to see someone fulfill the things they say they're going to do. And knowing where he was from, he was from DC, knowing he was, in the area, and knowing his experience as a collegiate athlete, the dream that he had for Howard was something that I really wanted to participate in if I could. And I think, although you were right about Dartmouth having a foundation better in some respects, that year prior, the Ivy League actually canceled the season for all sports. Right. So I was lucky enough to keep my job, which I'm forever grateful for. I got paid throughout that whole year, even though we really weren't doing, half of what we normally do. but it opened my eyes to maybe like, if this is what this league reaction is going to be to something like this, and this is no way we can say this won't happen again. Why would I stay here if basketball and helping young men through basketball is what I want to do, and I can't do that? So I think it was just a timing thing. And then Jake Brown, who was on staff here prior to my arrival, was actually a GA for us at Columbia, and he and I shared an office. So we were very close. And when Jake was here, he mentioned what was going on and kind of how the foundation was being built. But, he talked about how moving forward, he really felt like we were in a good place. And after talking to Carrie or talking to Kenny, and I actually drove down here and spent a day kicking it around DC and around campus just to kind of see what it was all about. I made the really tough decision to make the leap, right? To believe in Kenny and the vision that he had, and also my own ability to help, right? And make whatever dream he was trying to come up with come true in any fashion that I could help as well. So it just was something, I think, timing, fate, obviously the history together, but all of those things together really kind of came at the right time, and it made it an attractive move for me to make.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, in 2025, it looks like a genius move.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think about visionary.
I agree with this. Yeah, absolutely. And to say that turn around and you've done the things that you said you were going to do, and now the best part is we don't want to settle for that, right? We don't want to be just the 16 seed. We want more. We always want more, which I think is, again, the rare quality. A lot of people get satisfied at a certain point and just stay there, and we're not satisfied. We're happy, but we're not satisfied.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe as a follow-up, now 4 years kind of into your tenure, what has been some of your best experiences here and some of your most challenging experiences?
We'll start with the best, because I think, those are a little bit easier to recall. Obviously, the 2 championship seasons, and you go in the NCAA tournament. Thank you. A round of applause for everyone that was involved.
Shout out.
A team effort, every stretch of the way, every meaning of the word team there. But those were memorable, right? I think everyone who gets into college coaching wants that experience, wants to go to the NCAA tournament, wants to, celebrate, wrap your arms around people. People were making snow angels and the confetti, all that fun stuff. You want to do that. But I really think the most meaningful piece of it has been helping the guys that want to mature to be pros get to the professional level. So we've had, I think, 6 or 7 guys leave to play professionally from here since I've gotten here. And that's been huge. Like, they get to continue their career on something that's really fun, right? Something they enjoy. Not that everyone else doesn't have fun jobs out there, but I know firsthand that doing basketball doesn't feel like a real job most of the time. So the longer you can do it, the better you are. And then easily, the most fulfilling piece has been our manager, the growth of our manager core and what they've been able to do while they're here with us, but also away from the program. Shout out to Daniel Marks. Shout out to KB. That was another piece of the vision that they had to grow that and create that. But they've interned with Major League Baseball, USA Basketball, the Charlotte Hornets, Detroit Pistons, Bleacher Report, like all these sports-related entities that I don't know if they would have thought of Howard alums getting in those doors at one point. And our managers have been able to infiltrate all levels of sport, all sports, in all ways. And I think that's been super memorable. Challenging. There's one road trip in particular that was really challenging, but it really was because of the weather. We were slated to play in the first NBA HBCU All-Star game in Cleveland. I don't know if you guys remember that game.
I remember that.
Yeah, against Morgan State. So we'd given up a home game to do it too. Like, that was supposed to be our home game, and we offered to play it there on a neutral. And we were supposed to fly out. We're sitting on the plane on the tarmac at DCA. The pilot gets on the loudspeakers, a beautiful blue 70-degree day in the middle of February somehow. And the pilot gets on the loudspeaker and says, "Hey, everybody's got to get off the plane. There's an ice storm in Cleveland, and we can't get in tonight." So we're sitting there like, what do? We call the NBA. Hey, can you get us buses? No, we can't. All of the buses are already in Cleveland from the East Coast because of the needs of the All-Star weekend, all this stuff. So we can send a plane for you tomorrow morning, or we can do all these other things. But we were already packed, ready to go. So Kenny was adamant, like, no, we want to go tonight. Like, let's go tonight. So they sent us 2 like prom vans, one relatively new with nicer seats. So we put like the administration, our players were on there. The best way I can describe the second bus was like a bingo bus. All right. Like bench seats, no real lighting. The door kind of rattles when you shut it. And so we drove through the night to Cleveland that night. And it was miserable. The snow was miserable. The ice was miserable. The bingo bus, for whatever reason, the driver was either a former NASCAR driver or something. He got us there like an hour and a half early from the other bus. So we get in at like 1:32 in the morning. The other bus is still behind us. So we're waiting up. It's my scout. I think a couple of the coaches or admins go to bed. A couple of the coaches go to bed. But I'm staying up. Players get there. We tell them, don't even worry about your stuff. Just go to your rooms. Like, take your keys. Just go rack out, right? We got to play in 2 days. You just need to take a break. The bus, they came in, the lock froze for all the luggage. So now it's 3 in the morning. We're in Cleveland. It's a snowstorm, and we don't have a way to get out their luggage. And unfortunately, and this is where, just the story gets even better. The driver looks at me and goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "What are we going to do? It's your bus. What do you mean? What are we going to do? Why me?" So we had to call a 24-hour locksmith. He came and blowtorched the door. Long story short, I think I laid my head down at like 5:15, 5:30 in the morning of that following day, basically, and then was up like 4 hours later to start our programming with the NBA, which they had laid out for us. And we won the game, thankfully, and we got to fly home even more, thankfully. But that by far was the most challenging experience in terms of road tripping and logistics that I've had to deal with, and it'll be etched in my memory for as long as I live.
Wow!
And now it will be etched in Bison Nation memory.
That's right.
That was something.
It's a bingo bus. A bingo bus. I have to keep that in mind.
I don't know how else to describe it, man. It's just like.
Well, shout out to overcoming challenges, and also just for those listening in, shout out to Kenny Blakeney, Coach KB, and Kerry Davis, who've been very visionary on turning the corner for Howard athletics. Because if we hadn't had people that were putting those kind of blocks in place, we wouldn't know you, Coach Steve, because they wouldn't be thinking about how do we bring you in. So just to tag in on some of the opening questions here, I would like you to take a moment to describe what you do for the team, just so everybody gets a better base for. So when you're doing your day, what are some things you do? I know you do a lot, and I know there's always other duties as described, but primary role, what do you do for the team?
Yeah. So I mean, the short answer, right, is whatever's needed. But I think the roles really, I'm doing a lot of the logistical stuff. We don't necessarily have a traditional director of operations, so I end up. Myself and Daniel Marks kind of split that role where I'm dealing with the team travel and coordinating it through our travel people and budgeting and trying to figure out where we're going when and how the schedule kind of all mixes in. We're all responsible for scouting opponents. We each get a third of the schedule as assistants and do that. Normally we each also have a group of 5 to 6 players. We call it box management, where we're taking on their academic course load, their everyday lives, and also their basketball lives, whether that means film or on the court, to helping them improve, right? And then making sure to kind of overseeing everything they do on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis. The first line of freedom for these guys usually is the classroom, right? They get a chance to prove that they can handle things on their own, handle that responsibility on their own, just because we're not in class with them. So usually starts there and moves throughout, but we'll stay with those guys as often as we need to make sure they're trending in the right direction. Excuse me. That's also, outside of that, it's recruiting, right? Constantly. That's a 24-hour, 365-day job. You're never not recruiting. My phone is getting used way more than I would like. I'm definitely, I'm 41 and I definitely didn't grow up with an iPhone in my hand. So having one around constantly and text messages going off, and it's a necessary evil at this point, but it's definitely part of the game. And then, I think all of us are tasked with really just coming up with the next thing, whatever the next evolution of our program needs to be. We need to find ways to help get there, whether that's through who we know or what we can do and provide ourselves, or can we find the other person that's going to do that for us? And that might mean, leaning into nutrition a little more. That might mean leaning into the weight room a little more, right? Figuring out, becoming not an expert, but, understanding a little bit more about what it takes to make these guys better. Even driving them to, a chiropractor or a massage therapist just to get, sometimes it's chauffeuring, right? That's what we need today. And that's what you're doing. So, like you said, many hats. I love them all. Some, not all equally, but, I love them regardless, and go from there.
I love that. And just, Bison Nation, just listen in. This is, sometimes we hear from some of the fans and they always wonder, like, what are these guys doing? Like, they finally tune in. Chip cheers them on and says, you got to tune in. And if we win, they say, great. If not, they have all these complaints. Well, what they need to do is, and they say, what are these coaches doing? And I always want to make sure before we jump into all the cool stuff we're trying to do, we got a team that's lined up to make the Dream Factory a reality. That's the way I take away from this, is you're doing whatever it takes to make the Dream Factory a reality. And we thank you for that, but I also want to make sure we tell people this is what goes on when you're not looking. I will tell you that just one more quick question, Chip, before you. Chip has like 1,000 questions for you. I just got a couple.
Good.
So for me, it was after probably the Morehouse game this past year.
Yeah.
I remember you taking some of the guys who didn't get to play much down to the lower gym and had them actually working out and shooting. And that was so impressive to me because obviously after a game, there's a lot to do and people could be running in a different direction. It was a Monday night. It was a holiday weekend. So that means everybody was trying to get ready for the week to pick back up. But I guess, you talked about the box, working with the kids here. I think that's part of the job you like more than others. I just want to make sure I'm confirming that when you're developing people, that's your thing that makes you say, this isn't a job. This is just me helping people get better. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's, multifaceted, right? Definitely on the basketball court. I love seeing guys improve. I love when you work on something and then you see it appear in the game. And luckily we work with talented individuals where they may only have to work on something for like a week and all of a sudden it becomes, second nature to them. And that's a unique talent that Division I athletes have in all sports, right? They can adapt quickly and their muscle memory can adapt quickly. And, in terms of game day workouts, one, I live in DC, so I'm not too far away from the school. So anytime anyone needs to work out at maybe a non-traditional time, I'm more than happy to get there. Coach Ty Thornton does a phenomenal job with our player development. He's the head of player development for our program. This year, because I was on the injured reserve myself, he did basically all of it, even my guys, because I wasn't able to work guys out. But taking those guys on the court and just making sure that they didn't lose a day of development, right? Because game days, if you don't play, where have you worked on your game? We had a shoot around. We had, a light practice or whatever, maybe the day before. So you're talking about potentially 32 to 35 days off a year that everyone else that's playing gets to improve. We don't take that lightly. We want guys to play. I think if you look up an article, there's an old article in the Miami Heat culture, right? Where like the 3-on-3 games before the games with all the bench players are like more intense. And one time Dwayne Wade came in and was like cracking a joke and someone turned to him and was like, don't do that. Like these guys are trying to, win this game. Like they're killing each other out here because they're trying to be ready to help you in case someone else gets hurt, right? Not even because they're going to go on the floor, because they might go on the floor, right? That's why they're working so hard. So that's true of everyone that's on the bench, right? Hopefully they understand that. It doesn't always feel that way when you're sitting in that seat, and I've sat in that seat, so I know how that feels. But that's no excuse to not try to continue to develop and get better.
I love it. Chip, you got a question for us?
Well, not necessarily a question, but I know you talked about scouting, and I'm not going to play the whole clip, but we got a blast from your past. We're going to see.
Oh, no.
Are you going to keep doing any more of this?
Here to preview our conference home opener against the University of Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks, happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the Burr. Pack the Burr. All right. Last year we went 1-1 against each other in the regular season. I'm going to give you 2 key points today that we want to talk about with our team and going into our matchup tomorrow. The first is going to be about rebounding. Last year, Eastern Shore averaged double-digit offensive rebounds against us. We currently sit at number 2 in the league in offensive rebounding percentage.
If you
So
want me to
it's gonna
stop
be
it,
a battle of the
just
boards.
let me know.
Whoever can do their best job cleaning
whatever you
things
want,
up,
man. Whatever you
putting
want.
bodies on bodies,
You're gonna
will
get
allow for
either
them
way,
to have a
just like
chance
we
to win the
did. I
game.
can tell you that.
Second piece is their ability to cut. In the half court, they do a terrific job spacing the floor and cutting. And I'm going to show you here on the board with some Lego pieces
I like what you did
I
with the
mean by
pieces.
that.
We'll go here.
For the purpose of this demonstration, the black Lego is going to represent Howard and will be on defense. The white Lego is going to represent Maryland Eastern Shore.
The white on white
The gray
doesn't
Lego is
really
going to
work
represent
there,
a
but-
basketball. In any of their dribble out actions. So that's when one player is dribbling in the direction of another on the perimeter. And for what their bigger players, sometimes from the elbow, they do a terrific job of setting up their cut to allow for a backdoor opportunity. So here in this instance, we'll have a guard dribbling down from the top of the key. Another player here in the corner will lift up, and in doing so,
This is high
try
level
to
stuff.
encourage the defender to creep up into the passing lane. And when that happens, they cut back door for an easy layup at the rim. That's your look behind the curtain with the Bison for our matchup tomorrow with Eastern Shore. See you at Burr.
Boom.
That was about 20 pounds ago too, which I appreciate. It's nice to see.
See you at Burr. See you at
Yeah,
Burr.
Steve Burr. That was actually an idea that I think Kenny and Tramel Rags, who's on our staff this year as well, who
Yeah,
joined us
Tramel.
at Washington Post, to kind of give everybody a look in. Now, if you go read the comments on our Instagram,
That's where I was going with.
they went. Some people thought we were giving away game plans, which was, it was like these are all public stats. It's not. This is not a secret, guys. Like we're all basketball coaches.
Oh my God.
That's what I was going to bring up next because people were roasted. They were like,
I know,
"Hey, man."
I didn't mind it. Obviously, I need some. I need to rethink the white pieces on the whiteboard. You can't. I never watched it. I actually just did it and said, it's out in the world and whatever happens.
That's right.
Happens. But
I love that.
we thought we were engaging people, and some people did like it. And other people called us stupid and told us that it was the dumbest thing they'd seen. And it just, I know you can't please everybody, but it certainly, I didn't think it was a bad thing. I really did.
Hey, I loved it. That's why I pulled it as a clip because like we talked about in the pre-show, that's the type of stuff I would call Brian about. Like, hey man, we need to bring a player up and do it. And I was like, when I saw Coach Steve, I was like, yes, that's what we need.
Well, it's funny too that you guys say that because I think Brian, to your point earlier, or Chip, like to your point now, when we win, everybody's cool with everything we did, even though we made mistakes, right? I've never seen a game where we haven't made mistakes. When we lose, they're like, did you know they were going to do this? Like, of course we knew. Just because they executed something doesn't mean we did. Oh, they're always doing that. It's like, yeah, we know. We're trying to stop it. Like, just like when I shoot the ball, I'm trying to make it. You know what I mean? We're trying to stop. We're not out there, guessing and checking every now and again. You know what I mean? We do put in a lot of research. Just for Eastern Shore, and especially now that I've had the scout for 4 years in a row, I've probably watched hundreds of hours of Eastern Shore basketball. Besides people who work for Eastern Shore, there may be no one else in the world who's watched more Eastern Shore than me. So who are we arguing with here? And again, I don't want to lose games either. We're not coaching to lose, but it's just always funny that way where it's like, if we win, it's not all good, and that's the coach in me, right? Just because you win, again, happy, not satisfied, right? Satisfied is, way down the road, way at the top of the mountain. We're not there yet. And that's okay. And that was just supposed to be a glimpse into kind of what was to expect and what was to come, and educate the fans that, don't know as much about basketball or just come to the game because it's a fun time. The environment's great in the Burr. So I'd show up even if I didn't like basketball.
Look, when I saw it, I told Brian, I was like, "Hey, we need to steal Steve, and he could come on the show. And give us a little analysis afterwards."
Keys to the game. Keys to the game. We need it.
Anytime you can rotate through the scouts. I can tell you who's scout. If it's Ty scout, he can jump on. If it's
we need it. We need
scout, he can jump on. You should be more than happy to bring that back, I'm sure.
Well, we'll disclose, Coach, that when we recap what you all should be doing, this is not nearly as clean as what you did, and there's definitely some cussing involved. We cuss a lot when we try to explain what happened, so we need some help. We don't need to be doing that on public television or on podcast. We don't need to do it. We don't need to do it.
Understood.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I
yeah,
guess I'm kind of building on that with the scouting. Like, what would you say is your coaching style?
Personally, I think it's always been pretty quiet, and I'm a relatively loud person, like a pretty outgoing person. I'm pretty boisterous most of the time, but I've learned, at least in sports, I've been super observational, and that can be a good thing at times, and it can obviously be a bad thing at times too, right? Because sometimes you need to correct things in the moment, and I was a little more hesitant to do that. Growing up in this world, like I played for coaches in a coaching style that was very forward, right? As soon as you messed up, they were all over you, and that was fine. But I never responded well to that because I already knew I messed up. You know what I mean? I'd seen the game. Like you don't need to tell me I made a mistake after I made it. Like I know it was a mistake, and I would never talk back. I would never give faces, but in my head, I was like, it's not me. But that passion also isn't there if you're just sitting there observing, right? You can't tell that I'm in the fight with you sometimes, right? Because I'm sitting there watching. So when I got here, it was great because Kenny early on challenged me to be a little bit more outward and passionate and share in the immediate, right? Like, no, we need to know now. Like, a lot of review can be done on film after the fact, but sometimes when something happens, you really just you need to jump on it, and that's okay. You get in there and let them know you're in the fight with them. And I think that's something that's evolved in my coaching style that I didn't have before I got here. I still like to think of myself as a pretty laid back coach, but I think I've gotten more purposeful in my conversation as time has worn on as a coach, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, I think overall I'm relatively thoughtful. I'm always rooting for the guys, obviously, and trying to do my best to not make them think otherwise. But I do think sometimes that's the challenge too. When you're challenging them, they often think maybe that means you're challenging them as a person versus this little thing that just happened, right? And separating those two things and kind of melding that, I think, is how you operate on and off the floor as a coach, right? Not just your coaching style on the floor, but your coaching style off the floor. Like we are intense, we practice hard, but we love hard too. Like we'll put your arm around you just as hard as we will, push you forward in a game to do something and meet your capability. So
yeah, just a follow on there, coaches. And thanks for explaining your style and kind of how you come at the game. How else have you had to adapt with the way the game is shifted with like NIL and kids coming in and not staying like multiple years? I know there was a time where you could get a freshman and potentially keep them, especially in our HBCU leagues, they would stay through their eligibility would run out. But a lot of times now you all are recruiting some really talented kids that are try to test the waters and, maybe one year, one season, and they're moving on. How have you had to adapt your coaching for this new way of, looking at sports?
Yeah, Brian, you're encapsulating the basketball world really well right now. And in terms of the college space, I think we always knew that every year, that team is the only time you're going to have that group of people together, right? Like last year's group will never play together again.
Right.
But traditionally 9 or 8 of the guys would be moving on the next year. So it never really felt like each year was its own individual group, so to speak, or like there was some carryover. There was always carryover. So the programs could kind of maintain, more like a internal culture that supersedes the season, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it continues on regardless of who graduates. Like now it's like every season is like a new program. There's things culturally that we're still going to maintain and do. But like, I think this year we've got 3 scholarship players carrying over, maybe 4, so you're talking about 9 to, I guess with the house rules, 11 new faces in the program. Like that's a new program.
It's a new program.
Like there's no other way about it. And because of injuries this year, I think, with Bryce, OC, Dom, those are 3 guys that played big minutes on a team that went to the NCAA tournament that barely played this season for us.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about 3 guys that understood the culture and the pieces that went into it and how the season would work. And instead we've got these 9 new guys who are all great people and good players and super talented, but they're looking at us because they're hearing this stuff for the first time. versus guys who've heard it before and know exactly what it is and speak our same language, right? And you're having to teach a new language a lot faster than you in years past.
Yeah, that's again, that's my fascination with where we are today. Is that what I know we talked about in the pre-show here, and I want to bring it forward. Is that there's definitely something special about coming to Howard, maybe versus other places. And I know with recruiting, always be prudent. ABCs. I want to understand not only the way we position Howard as a place to come to, but specifically, how are you speeding up the culture building? Because that's fascinating to me to understand how to see that happen. I'm respecting the fact that everything takes time. Some things are, I never had brisket in the microwave. Yeah. Just saying.
Low and slow, absolutely.
It's like low and slow. So I'm trying to figure out how do we get the culture, but also you only got a short amount of time. So how is that playing out, man, from a Dream Factory standpoint?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and this is again, harkens back to KB and his style and just the way he's run things in the correct way, is we're super transparent early. Hey, man, these are the things we care about. We send them the graphic. We tell them, hey, we develop players. These are the things we care about. And if you don't care about these things, or you don't think you can do these things every practice, and we play every practice, not a lot of practices where you get to just chill on the sideline and shoot jumpers or like walkthroughs. Like we have walkthroughs the day before, day of games, and the light practice the day before games, but we scrimmage a lot. We get up and down a lot. Like anyone who wants to come watch us practice, you're going to see, a mini game and it's going to be hard. And the coaches are going to be fiery and the players are going to be fiery. And there's going to be some moments that, are going to test your will a little bit. And, I think that's been great because it kind of weeds out that other stuff really early. If they aren't if that doesn't excite them in some kind of way, or they're not curious to find out more, then they're not going to come, right? They're not going to do it. We've also, for my 4 years here, have been working with a sports psychologist by the name of Dr. Joseph Carr. He is wonderful in terms of delivering the messaging in a different way, right? In a more personalized way. He's obviously got advanced degrees and has been working with thousands of teams and works with professional athletes, college teams, and everyone in between on their mode of sport and kind of how to see the game and how to work through the problems, right? The low points, right? Dips, right? Drops in performance. That's what, that's a Dr. Carr phrase. You can't have any dips, or how do we respond from a dip? We're always going to have a dip, right? You're going to have a dip on a Wednesday afternoon at work because you're exhausted and you had all this. How do you respond to that dip? Do you sit there and, now I take a 5-minute power nap and I get right back to it because I know that's going to get me enough juice to go through the rest of the day. Before, that used to be seen as like, oh, nap means you're quitting. Like, no, nap means like quick response. Now I'm gone, right? My response to the situation is what's going to carry me through the rest of the day. Same thing on the basketball court. You're going to make a mistake. The mistake isn't the problem. Your response is the problem. Like if you respond a certain way, that's actually going to change the outcome, not the actual mistake, right? So if I turn the ball over and I throw my hands over my head and I make a big scene like I'm the only person on the floor instead of getting back on defense, now the outcome could be bad versus I turn the ball over, I sprint my butt back and I'm pointing and talking and communicating to my teammates. Now my outcome could be much better. And learning that through a variety of ways, as fast as we can teach these guys is really a big part of what we do. And Dr. Carr is somebody that KB's known basically his whole life, has helped us deliver that message quicker and easier and not always easier, but just more effectively, I should say, or more rapid.
Yeah. I love that. Say that's the stuff we don't get to really appreciate because, again, to your point, when we're trying to, I'm hesitant to buy a jersey with somebody's number on it because I don't know who's going to be in it every year.
But if you like them this year, then you should get that one. Yeah,
you should get it quick.
I got a Blake Harper shirt in my closet. You know what I mean? It's all good, man. I got a Marcus Dockery. I got an Anwar Gill. I got, you know what I mean? It's like
that's what I'm saying.
I got them. So. You just get them. They'll be collector's items at one point.
But I do appreciate though is just the understanding that everybody's dealing with how to make this work, and I think that we the top line news is all about the money and the resources and all that. We're not trying to act like that's not important these days, but we don't ever get a chance to understand. So how are we making it work with those who are here? Because there's a program that people are coming to. They may go, but they are coming here. So it's interesting to know how we're, trying to make sure people are getting up to speed on what we're looking for, and what we're looking for culturally is really cool to hear.
Well, to just extend briefly, because obviously money is really important. I'm not trying to downplay the importance of having money, but you can be bad at spending money too, right? So if you spend money without a plan or a blueprint, that's just frivolous, right? That's a waste of time. And I think what I like about us is we already have our blueprint. We know what wins here. We know what types of guys help us win. We know the design of the team in terms of what we want to look like and how it compares to the rest of the league. So now we just need, some funds would help us elevate that, not make us allow us. We've already done that without money. We've already done that without significant contributions to NIL, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't get more, or that, hey, you're okay because you figured it out. No, it means we can enhance what we've already done if the landscape is now about compensating players in a reasonable amount for their services. Because there are two jobs. They have two jobs when they're on campus, right? Being a student in college is a full-time job. And
absolutely.
That's absolutely true. Being a student athlete in college is also a full-time job, no matter your sport. And that's something that I think it gets lost a lot of times. And they're like, well, the free education. Yeah, that's all true, man. But they're already doing the education piece. You know what I mean? They're there doing that part. So what else can we give them to help make that easier, or help them recover, or help them live a little more comfortably while they're working really, really hard to represent the university, represent themselves, and hopefully better their futures?
Well, we're more than appreciative of the time that you gave us, Coach, and we really, really appreciate it. Like I said, you're welcome back at any time, especially, like I said, when we get into the season, if you want to jump on and throw some pegs as a preview.
Whiteboard. I got plenty of space on these walls back here. I can get a whiteboard.
Hey,
so walk around.
We go.
Yeah, we can just shoot it on the screen, whatever we got to do. And I just want to say too, from myself and the program, thank you for you both. And I know one of your co-hosts is missing tonight, but we really appreciate all of the highlights and what you guys do behind the scenes to bring not just our program, but sports at Howard to the forefront. By no means do we want to change the school into purely athletics, because there's obviously brilliant people on the academic side too. But we do want to highlight, these young men and women and all the things they're doing to make Howard a national name. And again, we're an open book. You can put up my contacts, whatever. I won't put my cell on here, but email is fine. I answer all that stuff. And if it's tickets to a game, if it's when are we practicing, if it's we're in your city and we want to sit down and see you for dinner, whatever it is, we're more than open. That's been KB's policy from the minute he took the job. And it's something that we really hold true and dear. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you again for all you guys do to help us push the program forward. It really means a lot.
Appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Do it out of love. Do it out of love.
Absolutely.
Well, Bison Nation, we are so thrilled to have Coach Steve Ongley be with us for this time. We hope you enjoyed this show. And Bison Nation, we're going to end this show like we end every show. You know how we do it. You know.